Hi, I'm Brendan Bushy. I'm 79 years old. I was born in New York, raised in Brooklyn. I was part of a large Italian Catholic family. At some point, I began to consider myself as a recovering Catholic. I always voted Democrat. At some point, I considered myself a recovering Democrat. I have no use for the political parties in our country. Our country was founded by wealthy white men, and they created a country based upon the old Roman Republic. And in the Roman Republic, the Senate ruled. And in the United States, once it was founded, the Senate really ruled. Slavery was legal, women were disenfranchised, non-property owners were disenfranchised. Hmm. Our founding fathers created 13 separate um, aristocracies. Each state was its own little um, empire. They didn't want to pay taxes to the King of England, so they broke off. They formed their own little nations. Um, I didn't have this sense of our country until I was probably um, in my 60s. I certainly was critical of our country before that. The I vote Democrat, and I've always voted Democrat because I believe the Democrats were the lesser of two evils. I understand people can be critical of that. That's okay. Hmm. But I voted for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. And I don't think I was wrong in terms of that. I think Trump was a disaster. Um, I voted for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. And again, I don't think I was wrong in doing that. There are people who think that keeps us in the bad situation we're in. I don't agree with that. I do agree that both our political parties are problematic. They both kowtow to big corporations. They both take money from the same banks and corporations. Um, what can I tell you? Sometimes voting for the lesser of two evils is the only option you have. Now, back in 2016, I voted for Hillary. I voted for Hillary because I thought she was a better alternative than Donald Trump. Now, I'm reading a book by Naomi Klein. It's called No Is Not Enough, Resisting Trump's Shock Politics and Winning the World We Need. I really like Naomi Klein. I've only discovered her in the last 2 months. Last month, I read her book, The Shock Doctrine. That's the first thing I ever read that she wrote. And it was one of the best books I've ever read in my life. Certainly one of the most informative. She does incredible research and she knows how to put it together and tell a story that's easily understood. And she's doing the same thing here with No. Um, Only in chapter 7, on page 123, she asked this question. And it's in reference to Bernie Sanders, who she supported. So why couldn't he connect with enough voters to go over the top? And I'm doing this video to answer that question. And I think it's a simple answer. Third party candidates have not done well in this country. Teddy Roosevelt didn't do well. Ross Perot didn't do well. Bernie Sanders did not identify himself as a Democrat. In fact, he went out of his way on several occasions to say, I'm not a Democrat. When he decided to run for the presidency, to seek the nomination, he ran as a Democrat socialist or a socialist Democrat. So why didn't he go over the top? Number one, he was running in a party that he disavowed. And number two, he was using a label that was going to turn off a lot of voters. Should it have turned off voters? I don't think so, but it did. So if you want to be the president of this country, you need to understand the politics in this country. And if you think you were going to win the nomination saying that you were a socialist, you were naive at best. As for Hillary Clinton, Naomi talks about what she did and didn't accomplish. She talks about her naivete in terms of the Electoral College. That may all be true. But Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Did she lose the Electoral College? Yeah. Um, was that naive on her part? Possibly. The that was the second time in my lifetime that someone I voted for won the popular vote and didn't get elected to the presidency because of the Electoral College. I have no use for a lot of the people who are leaders in the Democratic Party. I had no use for Bill Clinton. I think that man did more to harm this country than a lot of other people. I certainly had no use for George W. Bush. I think he's a mass murderer. I think what they did in Iraq was inexcusable. Many of us were killed. He destroyed our economy, and hundreds of thousands of people in Iraq were killed. I got to admit, I was emotionally uh, taken in, if you will, by Barack Obama. I really liked him. Yes, we can. He was, for me, representing a promise, an opportunity for us to change what we're doing, but he didn't. The first thing he should have done, I think, was work to reestablish the Voting Rights Act, which he didn't. He also stopped Congress from investigating George W. Bush for war crimes. I think that was a mistake. He did a number of things. Personally, I like the guy. I don't think he was evil, but I don't think he provided the kind of leadership we needed. With Hillary, it wasn't that I liked Hillary, and it wasn't that I disliked Hillary. It was that Donald Trump was just doesn't even deserve to be discussed. So how could you not vote for the Democratic candidate? And Bernie, I go back to it. If he wanted to run, he should have done what Ralph Nader did, run as an independent. You know, people say Nader, of course, scored the election. I don't know if that's true, but it was legitimate. Everybody has a right to run for whatever office they want, and they have a right to define themselves as whatever. Nader did not see himself as a Democrat. He did not run as a Democrat. I have respect for him. People who criticize him are Democrats, saying he ran as a third party, cost us the election. Oh, well. But Bernie Sanders wasn't a Democrat either. And he shouldn't have run as a Democrat. If he really wanted to be president at that point, he should have run as an independent. What would he have done? I don't know. I don't think he would have won the election, and I think it's highly probable that Hillary Clinton would not have won the popular vote had Bernie run as an independent. But that's why I don't think Bernie got the votes to win the primary against Hillary Clinton. He didn't identify as a Democrat. He identified primarily as a socialist. He disavowed the Democratic Party. I don't think he had any business running as a Democrat. That's the best I got. So, Naomi, I love your work. I love your scholarship. I love your research. I'm halfway through this book and I'm knocked out. But I think this was too simple a question for you to have asked. I think you should have been able to come up with the same answer I just gave. And just so you know, in terms of Bernie, in terms of Barack Obama, Bernie talked about Medicare for all. I'm all in favor of that. Free education, all in favor of that. Um, Barack Obama, one of the heavy criticisms I have of him, other than the ones I've articulated, is that I truly expected him, when he went after healthcare, to do the equivalent of Medicare for all or single payer system. What he did with healthcare was bullshit. And the Affordable Care Act, as much as that provided health insurance for people who didn't have it prior, that wasn't what we needed. It was better than nothing, but it wasn't what we needed. We needed what Bernie calls Medicare for all. And if Bernie painted himself into a box because he defined himself as a socialist, then instead of running for the presidency, he should have worked to bring some other people up to help them get in a position to run for the nomination as Democrats, if that's the party he wanted to run in or wanted to uh, win in. That's all I got. I'm sorry I'm choppy here. I'm having trouble with my memory. Um, I, I have trouble with names. I have trouble with dates. Um, this is my third start on this video. Both previous times I cut it off after about a minute because I just was boggled. Um, so I hope I don't come across as mind boggled this time. Anyway, thanks for putting up with me. Um, and I'm also freaked out. Trump bombed Iran yesterday. And I watched ABC, CBS, and NBC News last night from 9 to 10 p.m., waiting for Trump's speech, which was off the wall nuts. But I waited, I watched them just to see what they were doing, and I kept switching. And not one of those major networks raised the issue of Trump attacking a foreign country without congressional authorization. For the record, Iran never attacked us. Iran, I have no love for Iran. I have no love for the leaders of Iran. I have no love for what they have funded around the world. I have no love for Hamas or Hezbollah. But Iran did not attack us, and we attacked a sovereign nation. We attacked a sovereign nation while refusing to support Zelensky in Ukraine in his attempt to defend the takeover of his sovereign nation on the part of Russia. You want to try to explain these politics to me? Good luck. I was dismayed to find one of the, I guess, editors of The Atlantic came out with a statement praising Trump for having attacked Iran today. People are nuts. There was no justification for us attacking Iran. There were no nuclear weapons in Iran. There were no nuclear weapons in Iraq. It was pretense. Benjamin Netanyahu wanted us to attack Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu is a butcher, just like George W. Bush. He's engaging in mass murder in Gaza. He attacked Iran. If there's a war between Iran and Israel, that's between them. That's not our war. And we're not safer today because Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran last night. I saw a bit of Hegseth's interview this morning where he was explaining how Donald Trump processed all the information and came to conclusions. Donald Trump is a world-class idiot. I think he was talking about airfields during the Revolutionary War. And I think recently he was talking about the Declaration of Independence, and he didn't know that it wasn't signed prior to the Civil War. So this man was doing analysis of data. Give me a break. And Hegseth, I, I'm laughing. I shouldn't be. I saw him this morning. I haven't seen anybody with hair like that and his little American flag handkerchief sticking out of his blazer pocket. Um, I haven't seen anything like that since someone portrayed like a mafia thug in a grade B, you know, movie. Everything we're experiencing in our government now is a sham. We have lost this country. If you don't understand that, what can I tell you? How do we regain it? I don't know. The best I got for regaining it is for people to organize national strikes. Um, Much like King did with the bus strike. Strikes work. They do damage to people's profits. If there's one thing we understand in this country, it's profits. We're about to find out whether uh, Trump's big, beautiful bill gets passed. That's going to be in the next week or so. And if that gets passed, we're going to be in a worse hole than we've been in decades and decades and decades. So if you want to do something, organize, organize with others. You can't be, Naomi Klein has it right. You can't be a single issue constituency. But when she's talking about that, when she's talking about organizing with people who represent different issues than your one issue, she's also talking about putting together a coalition and voting for the least offensive um, choice. She's talking practicality. And there's nothing more practical in this country than attacking profits. I don't know if it's possible for us to come back from this. And I think we're way past the point where it's possible to come back from what we've done to this planet. I think Earth is exterminating us slowly but surely. I think life for us is going to be untenable on this planet in the not too distant future. Um, that is all I've got. Thank you for putting up with me again. Take care.